There we go. Okay. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I'm working on a live stream, and this is an example of some watercolor roses that I have done before to make a bookmark. And this is the canvas that I'm going to be working on today. It's something I've just made, and since I'm working with watercolors and I didn't want there to be too much downtime during this stream, I decided to do my background ahead of time so that it could dry before I get started. So, excuse me. Just so you know, I might pause every once in a while to make sure things are going as they should on the stream, or just to think my thoughts, because I am an introvert, so I don't have a whole lot of words. So, I did have something I wanted to talk about. Oh, yes. I wanted to talk about what I am working on right now. Ooh, let me mute that, or we're going to get feedback. There we go. Okay, so let me see if I can get a rose started. Let's just use my own old artwork for reference, shall we? Where am I going to put it? Let's put one here. One of the things that I wanted to talk about a little bit is what I'm kind of doing right now as far as my artwork is concerned, and like where I'd like to be in the future. And sorry if I clear my throat a lot, I have allergies. So right now it is, with it being January, it is the time of year when if you want to do what are they called? Art fairs or any kind of fair or convention or farmer's market or anything like that. If you want to do anything like that and set up a booth to sell your art, you have to start looking into it now. So because they want you to go through an approval process and show them photos of your work so that they can make sure that your work is something that they want as part of their show, because they have a reputation to maintain and they want to make sure that the people who come to the show see really good products. So they want you to get in ahead of time. They want you to apply way ahead of time. So I've wanted for a very long time to do an art show or convention. I always love going to them. In the summer, there's a local event to my city called Art in the Park, and it's something where a gallery, I think, hosts it, a local gallery, and a whole bunch of artists from the area and from a little farther away than just my cities come and sell their art there. And there's just such wonderful art there of all different kinds. There's sculptures, there's paintings, there's, what are they called? I've seen like one lady would make these frames, and then she would make a scene inside of them between two panes of glass using pressed flowers and plants. And so she would make a picture out of that, like buildings that were made out of petals and stuff. And so just all sorts of really creative things like that. Well, that petal needs to be bigger. I just always loved going to it, and I've always wanted to be a vendor at one of those places. And I haven't really thought that I could really do it. It's kind of a big long-term goal dream for me. But since I've been actually lately looking into making my art a profession, I've been thinking about actually maybe doing that this year. So I don't know if you can even see the lines I've been drawing. I've just been drawing a rose, and I just do that by circling around an inner point that I establish, and then it gets bigger and bigger. So let me see. And this paper is still slightly wet. It's not very wet anymore. Certainly not like it was when it got all bubbly like this. But it's still a little bit wet, so it's going to react to my putting more watercolors on it a little differently than if it was totally dry. So I'm going to keep that in mind. That's just my phone buzzing. I think it's probably telling me I have a Twitter something. I don't care right now. I really don't. Let me see. So, art in the park. So I've been thinking about possibly applying to that, and I've also been thinking about applying to various farmers markets and other sorts of markets that happen in my area during the summer. But I've not been having a lot of luck finding the right ones for me. Some of them are too far away. Some of them are way too expensive for how big the audience is probably going to be there. So they're not not very cost effective. So, and then art in the park is kind of medium expensive, but it's also harder to get into. There are artists who will look at your work and will decide whether it's good enough to go into the show. And so, or if you're good enough to be a vendor. And so, and my mom has some artist friends, and she says that it's very hard to get into, and she doesn't think I'm ready. So, and it would hurt my feelings quite a bit if I applied and they said no. Plus, it's kind of expensive just to apply. The booth itself isn't that expensive compared to other places, but the application process is pretty expensive. So it would just be money down the drain if I didn't get in. So I'm a little not sure about applying for that one. I might have to wait till next year or even possibly the year after that. But we'll see. We'll see. But so that's one of the things I'm thinking about doing, but there are also other things I'm working on that are kind of pulling me away from that because I only have so much time in the day and so much creative energy, such that I have all these different projects I want to work on and make progress in, but I can't do them all at once. So the other big thing that I'm trying to do right now is get into animating. So I am teaching myself to animate storytime animations like what's been popular on YouTube for a while now. Because I watched some, I just happened across them for some reason recently, and I really liked them, and I thought, hey, maybe I could do that. And I've just kind of been having a hard time making my videos or making my art YouTube friendly, and that it's not very, I don't go for a whole lot of clickbait, and I don't usually do challenges or the sorts of things that get really a lot of views on YouTube. I mainly just do speed paints or the occasional how-to sort of a thing. So I'm not likely to get very big very fast on YouTube with this kind of art. So I'm thinking of making a second channel where I mainly do animations, and have that be my clickbaity YouTube friendly content, because it's just somewhat not me, and so I don't think it could ever go on this channel, because this channel is very me. And I'd like to keep it that way. I'd like to keep one area of self-expression that's very me. So but I also really want to make art my career, so I have to also take marketability into consideration. So I'm also so that's why I feel pulled in a couple of different directions, whether to really dive into the kind of art that I want to do and that is more me, or if I should pour myself into what might actually become a viable career. So yeah, which is kind of a thing that artists always have to balance, whether they only ever do things because they enjoy them, or think that the world is better off with them, or whether they're going to do something that will actually make them able to live as an artist and have that be their full-time job. So that's what I'm thinking about at the moment. Not that I don't like animating, I actually really enjoy a lot of it, but it's not exactly, I don't think that the world needs more of that. I think that people like the Odd Ones Out, who I love, and Rebecca, and people like that do enough of it that I don't need to do it to make the world a better place. But it is fun, and it is a nice creative outlet. And it is fun also to learn a new skill by teaching myself to do it instead of taking classes. But I'm just not sure. So there's my first rose. Definitely not finished yet, just color blocked, kind of. I'll have to go back in to get the shadows and highlights and stuff, but first that needs to dry. So let's get another one going. Let's see. Maybe this one, I don't know. Should I make them look the same, or should I make the other one more pointy? Maybe I'll make this one more pointy, and then I can put points on this one later if I want to. By the way, if you are at all interested in how I made the background for this, there's a video coming out on, let me see, Wednesday, as is my usual upload day. And I do something very similar in that video, so you can see it there. They do wet on wet background and then some sprinkling, which for the sprinkling, which is where all these different dots came from, I use my scrubby brushes, which are these. They are very stiff bristled, so when you pull them back they spring very well. They're not good for painting like this, but they could also do some scratchies on the paper if you wanted to do that. But they're absolutely excellent for sprinkling. And so I did wet on wet first, and then I put some green and blue pigment down, and then I dropped extra water on top. So that's what made these lines. And then where that extra water was, when I sprinkled with the blue, it spread out like this, and where there is much water, they made little dots like this. So I got to have two different background textures, and I think it looks really cool. Yeah, so I really like drawing roses, as I talked about actually in the very long time ago now video, almost a year, maybe 9 months ago, when I was making this bookmark. I talked about how when I was a kid in school, I would draw roses on my paper to pass the time, because school was boring. And I was homeschooled for most of my life, so I learned very quickly, and I definitely did a lot better with homeschooling than when I was taught in formal schooling with teachers and everything, because homeschooling you can work at your own pace, and my pace is a lot faster than a lot of the students around me in when we did a cooperative thing with the school district. So it was much more efficient for me to get my work done at my own pace. So I had a lot of time to kill, and I spent some of it drawing roses in my notebooks. Which is kind of cool, because now I can look back at my old notebooks and they're just full of doodles in the corners, and that's just really cool to know that I was always creating, because for a long time I wasn't actually thinking at all of having art, as in paintings or drawings or anything like that, be my profession. I wanted to be a writer. So I didn't really pursue this kind of art much at all, and I just thought of it as pure hobby, whereas my writing was hobby, but it was also something I hoped to one day be my job. But then as I something happened in my schooling life that made me realize that my usual backup profession that I had other than writing, which was being a nurse, wasn't going to work out. I started looking into other avenues, and actually started thinking about art like this, because I was thinking about what I could possibly do if my first plan wasn't going well, and then I wasn't sure about my second plan of writing, so what else could I do? And I actually realized that even though I hadn't been pursuing it as something to do professionally, I had been doing art like this my whole life. At one point I was working mainly with acrylics. At one point I did a lot of cross stitching. At one point I did a lot of cake decorating, which is an interesting art, and got really into it. And what else did I do? I'm looking up at my walls because they're covered in my old artwork. Mostly acrylics. For a long time it was acrylics, and I really loved doing that. Then the paint was so expensive, so when I kind of got back into painting, I went for watercolors, because it's a lot cheaper, because basically you're only paying for the pigments rather than the stuff it's dissolved in, because water's free, or at least it is to me, because we have a well. And so it's a lot cheaper than acrylics from what I found. So, and then I started really enjoying it, so now that's why I do it. But I had been actually working on different art things and really enjoying them all my life, even if I didn't plan to make a career of it. So then I thought, well, maybe I could do something with this. And also, I actually did kind of feel and do kind of feel that there's a certain lack in art that I could actually lend myself to, in that I really love fantasy art, like with dragons and fairies and warrior women, which you may have noticed I've drawn a few of. But the thing about the way that warrior women tend to be depicted in art is that they tend to be heavily sexualized. And I didn't like that at all. So one of the big things that I want to do is make fantasy art with non-sexualized men, because I think it's fine for us to just exist and be cool without being sex objects. What a concept. Anyway, so that's something that's kind of important to me about art. But also just, I always have enjoyed other people's art and just things that are artistic. And I just enjoy it for its own sake. So, it's kind of important to me. Put a bit more water in this. Make it a little lighter. It's a bit dark. You can kind of see the background through the lighter colored petals, so I kind of like that. You can see the blue splotchies. That's nice. Actually, you can even see it through these dark petals, because that's some very dark blue there. So that's fun. One of the things I really like about watercolors is the layering you can do with it, and I didn't really figure out how to do layering for a while. You'll notice in my older pieces like this, there pretty much isn't any layering, because I didn't learn how to do it for a while. So, but now I really enjoy it, and I enjoy being able to put something into the background and then have it show through. Have it show through. That's really cool. And also just laying down colors and then putting other colors on top of them, and it's somehow different than if you had just mixed those two colors together, as I would have done with my acrylics. So that's really cool. How long have we been going? 25 minutes. That's quite a while. Oh. Well, not for a live stream, it's not, but I've been sitting here for a while. I think I'm actually going to leave it there, and I will pick this up. Actually, it'd be kind of cool to have a project that I'm just working on in live streams and just continually further it through live streams, which is something that some of the live streamers I've been following do. So let's keep this for the next live stream, and I'll see you in my video on Wednesday. Bye! Let's see. Ooh, I'll show you my filming setup while I turn this off. This is a treat. Okay, so here's some rulers and some back book boxes, but they're shaped to look like books. And so they are holding up this thing, and also my lamp, which I only put this here for live streams because I need a little extra light for live streams, and water, and that's my setup. So thank you for watching. And bye. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye.